I'm standing in front of 247 homeowners, holding a manila folder that's about to end someone's life as they know it. 6 months ago, I was just another guy who bought his first house. Today, I'm about to expose embezzlement, fraud, and corruption that goes all the way to, well, let's just say Karen's husband wished he'd never started that landscaping company. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a mailbox, yes, a mailbox, started this whole thing. Look, I know what you're thinking. This is just another revenge story. But here's what nobody tells you about HOAs. They have more power than most local governments. They can literally take your house. No judge needed, no trial. Just bureaucratic terrorism disguised as community standards. But here's the secret they don't want you to know. HOA board members are fiduciaries. That's a legal term that means they can go to prison for self-dealing. And most of them, they have no idea. Over the next 20 minutes, you're going to learn exactly how to spot HOA corruption, the specific laws that protect you, and the nuclear option that every homeowner has but nobody uses. This isn't just my story, it's your blueprint. Because if Karen could do this to me, there's probably a Karen in your neighborhood doing it to someone right now. Let me take you back to where this all started. It was supposed to be perfect. After 5 years of saving, eating ramen, and working overtime, I finally had enough for a down payment. The house at 1847 Maple Street wasn't just a house, it was validation that I'd made it. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a backyard where I could finally have that fire pit I'd always dreamed about. The neighborhood looked like something out of a magazine. Every lawn was green, every driveway was clean, and every house had this coordinated charm that whispered success. The day I got the keys, my neighbor Jim came over with a 6-pack. Nice guy, worked in IT, had that tired look of someone who'd been fighting battles he couldn't win. He handed me a beer and said something I'll never forget. "Welcome to the neighborhood. Word of advice, just keep your head down and pay the fines. It's easier that way." I laughed. Thought he was joking. He wasn't laughing. The HOA welcome packet arrived 2 days later. 47 pages. I'm not exaggerating, I counted. Rules for everything. Grass height, maximum 2.5 inches. Mailbox color. Approved shades listed on page 23. Trash can placement, no earlier than 7 p.m. the night before pickup, must be removed by 8 a.m. the day of. There were rules about bird feeders, about the angle of your satellite dish, about the acceptable species of flowers you could plant. I thought it was ridiculous, but hey, I wanted to be a good neighbor. Then she showed up. Karen Thompson, HOA president for 6 years running. She had this way of dressing like she was always on her way to a country club. Pearls, pressed blazer, clipboard that she held like a weapon. Her smile never reached her eyes. "Just wanted to personally welcome you to Willowbrook Estates," she said, but her eyes were scanning my property like a predator marking territory. "I noticed your moving truck left some tire marks on the driveway. You'll want to power wash those." Page 31 of the covenant. She handed me a copy of the rules, even though I already had one. "We like to maintain standards here." 2 weeks. That's how long my honeymoon period lasted. 2 weeks before the first violation notice appeared on my door. $25. My crime? My trash cans were at the curb at 6:47 p.m., 13 minutes too early. I actually laughed when I read it. Thought it had to be a mistake. I mean, who's checking trash cans at 6:47 p.m.? Turns out, Karen was. She had photos, time-stamped photos. I paid it. Figured it was a one-time thing, a hazing ritual for the new guy. But then came the second notice. My mailbox. $150 because it was off-white instead of approved white. I'm standing there with the violation notice, looking at my mailbox, then looking at every other mailbox on the street. They all looked exactly the same to me. But apparently, mine was wrong. The previous owner had painted it, and it was one shade off from the approved Benjamin Moore Cloud White. Month 2 brought the grass inspection. I'll never forget this. Karen showed up at my door on a Saturday morning with a ruler, an actual ruler. She walked onto my lawn, bent down, and measured my grass. 2 3/4 inches, she announced, like she'd just discovered a crime scene. Quarter inch over regulation. That's $300. I stood there in my pajamas, coffee getting cold in my hand, watching this woman measure grass with the precision of a surgeon. "You're joking," I said. She smiled that cold smile. "The rules are very clear, Mr. Davidson. Page 14, Section 3B. The fines started coming faster after that. Wrong species of mulch, $500. Driveway oil stain that I couldn't even see, $750. Unapproved bird feeder, $300. Flowers that were too bright somehow, that was a thing, $400. Each fine came with photos, citations from the covenant, and a payment deadline. Missed the deadline, the fine doubled. I tried to fight it. Went to my first appeals meeting. Picture a conference room in a community center, 5 board members sitting behind a folding table like they're the Supreme Court. Karen in the center, gavel in hand. I presented my case about the grass height, showed them photos from different angles, argued that a 1/4 inch was within any reasonable margin of error. Karen listened with this patronizing smile, then said, "Mr. Davidson, rules are rules. If we make an exception for you, we'd have to make exceptions for everyone." Motion to uphold the fine. All in favor? 5 hands went up. Meeting adjourned. By month 6, I was drowning. The fines had reached $15,000. $15,000. For violations that ranged from leaving my garage door open for too long to having the wrong type of weather stripping on my front door. But then came the special assessment notice. The board had decided the neighborhood needed improvements. New entrance signs, landscaping upgrades, fountain repairs. Every homeowner's share? $15,000, due in 30 days. I called Jim, my neighbor. "How is this legal?" I asked. He sighed. "They did the same thing 3 years ago, and 2 years before that. Always some emergency improvement. Always the same contractors. Just pay it, man. Fighting them only makes it worse." But something in his voice made me push. "The same contractors?" I asked. "Yeah," he said, lowering his voice like Karen might be listening. "Premium Landscaping, Elite Fountain Works, and Signature Stonecraft. They're the only approved vendors." That night, I couldn't sleep. Something felt off. 3 companies, and they're the only ones allowed to bid? In what world does that make sense? So I did what any desperate person does at 2 a.m. I started Googling. Premium Landscaping LLC, Elite Fountain Works, Signature Stonecraft Incorporated. The websites were basic, minimal information. But then I found something interesting. The State Business Registry. Public information, anyone can search it. Premium Landscaping LLC. Owner, Richard Thompson. Thompson. Why did that name sound familiar? I searched Elite Fountain Works. Owner, R. Thompson Enterprises. My heart started racing. Signature Stonecraft Incorporated managing member, Richard Thompson. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. Thompson. Karen Thompson. It couldn't be that obvious, could it? A quick Facebook search confirmed it. Richard and Karen Thompson, married for 22 years. There they were in their profile picture, smiling at some charity gala. The HOA president was funneling every contract to her husband's companies. Every special assessment, every improvement project, every emergency repair, all going to the same person. I started pulling records. HOA meeting minutes, going back 5 years, all public record, by the way, though Karen never mentioned that. In 5 years, the HOA had paid Premium Landscaping $487,000. Elite Fountain Works had received $298,000. Signature Stonecraft pulled in $175,000. Nearly $1 million. And here's the kicker. I found bids from other companies in the archived emails. Lower bids, sometimes 40% lower. All rejected for vague reasons like not meeting community standards or insufficient insurance documentation. But I needed more. See, showing that Karen's husband owned the companies wasn't enough. I needed to prove she was involved in the decision-making, that she knew about the conflict of interest. So I started attending every HOA meeting, recording them on my phone, legal in my state. I checked, and Karen couldn't help herself. She'd say things like, "Premium Landscaping knows our standards best," or "I can personally vouch for their work." Personal vouching for your husband's company while voting to hire them? That's textbook breach of fiduciary duty. I spent 3 months building my case. Found 17 other homeowners who'd been targeted with excessive fines. Discovered that the worst fines always came right before a special assessment, manufacture a crisis, create the need for money. Got sworn affidavits from 3 landscaping companies who said they were told not to bother bidding because the contracts were already decided. By month 9, Karen made her biggest mistake. She put a lien on my house, $37,000 in accumulated fines plus late fees, interest, and administrative costs. A lien on my house for grass height and mailbox colors. The notice said if I didn't pay within 60 days, they'd start foreclosure proceedings. Foreclosure. They were going to take my home. That's when I knew it was time. The annual HOA meeting was in 3 weeks. Every homeowner would be there. Karen would be running for another term as president, expecting her usual unopposed victory. She had no idea what was coming. I prepared like I was going to trial, organized every document, created a PowerPoint presentation, printed copies of everything for the attendees. The morning of the meeting, I put on my only suit, packed my evidence in a manila folder, and walked to the community center. The room was packed. 247 homeowners, most of whom I'd never seen before. They looked defeated, tired, there out of obligation, more than interest. Karen sat at the front table with the other board members, shuffling papers with that same superior smile. The agenda was routine, budget, approval, committee reports, board elections. She had no idea I'd submitted a motion for new business, perfectly legal under the bylaws, though nobody ever did it. When they called for new business, I stood up. I'd like to present evidence of embezzlement and breach of fiduciary duty by Board President Karen Thompson. The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Karen's face went from confused to pale to angry in about 3 seconds. "This is highly inappropriate," she started, but I cut her off. According to Article 7 of our bylaws, any homeowner can present matters of financial concern to the association. I have the floor. I walked to the front, connected my laptop to the projector, and began. "Ladies and gentlemen, over the past 5 years, your HOA has paid nearly $1 million to 3 companies. Click. The company names appeared on screen. All 3 companies are owned by the same person. Click. Richard Thompson's name appeared. Richard Thompson is the husband of our board president." The room erupted in whispers. Karen stood up. "This is ridiculous. There's nothing illegal about using qualified vendors who happen to be your husband," I interrupted. "Let me show you something else." Click. A spreadsheet appeared. "Here are bids from 7 other landscaping companies, all of them lower than premium landscaping. All of them rejected." Click. "Here are the meeting minutes where you, Karen, personally motioned to approve your husband's contracts, where you voted on them, where you never once disclosed the conflict of interest." The whispers turned to angry murmurs. "But wait," I said, "there's more." I pulled out the forensic accounting I'd done. Special assessments always preceded by a wave of fines. 37 homeowners hit with excessive violations in the 60 days before each assessment. Total fines collected, $318,000. Total paid to Thompson Companies, $960,000. That's a $642,000 deficit. Where did that money come from? Our reserves, our emergency fund, it's gone. An elderly man in the 3rd row stood up. "Is this true?" he asked Karen. She was fumbling with papers, trying to find something, anything to refute me. "These are baseless accusations," she managed. "I've served this community for 6 years." "Served yourself, you mean?" a woman shouted from the back. The room was turning. You could feel it. I delivered the killing blow. Under state law, specifically the Nonprofit Corporation Act, Section 617.0834, board members have a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of the association. Self-dealing, which is what this is, isn't just a violation of that duty. It's criminal, embezzlement, wire fraud, conspiracy. I turned to the room. I motioned for an immediate vote of no confidence in President Thompson, a full forensic audit of the past 5 years' finances, and referral of this matter to the district attorney's office. The vote was unanimous. Well, almost. Karen voted against it, but 246 to 1 is still pretty decisive. What happened next was beautiful in its efficiency. The forensic audit took 6 weeks. The actual number was worse than I'd calculated. $80,000 in embezzled funds through inflated contracts, phantom services, and straight-up theft. The district attorney's office opened a criminal investigation. The state attorney general got involved because it crossed into racketeering territory. Karen was arrested at her home on a Thursday morning. I know because Jim texted me a photo. She was in her pearls and pajama pants, being led to a police car. The charges: embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy, and breach of fiduciary duty. Her husband was arrested the same day. Their assets were frozen, pending investigation. But here's the part that still makes me smile. Remember all those excessive fines, the liens? Under state law, if an HOA board acts outside its authority or in breach of its duty, its actions can be voided. Every single fine Karen had issued in her 6 years as president was reviewed. 42 homeowners got refunds. I got a check for $37,418. The lien on my house? Removed. Karen and Richard Thompson were convicted on all charges. The sentence: 3 years probation, $250,000 in restitution, and a permanent ban from serving on any nonprofit board. But the real justice? They had to sell their house to pay the legal fees and restitution. Their perfect house, in the perfect neighborhood they'd ruled over like tyrants. Gone. The new board implemented transparency measures. All contracts now require 3 independent bids. All board members must disclose any potential conflicts of interest. Financial reports are published monthly, and fines? They require a majority vote of the entire board, not just the president's signature. Property values in Willowbrook Estates went up 12% the year after Karen was removed. Turns out, people will pay more for a neighborhood that isn't run by a criminal enterprise. Who knew? Now, let me break down exactly how you can spot this in your own HOA, because I guarantee you, there are thousands of Karens out there right now, running the same scam. First, understand what fiduciary duty means. When someone joins an HOA board, they become a fiduciary. That's a fancy legal word that means they have to put the association's interests above their own. They're basically trustees of your money. And just like a banker can't loan himself money from the vault, an HOA president can't steer contracts to their spouse. It's not just unethical, it's illegal. The 3 pillars of fiduciary duty are the duty of care, the duty of loyalty, and the duty of good faith. Duty of care means they have to actually pay attention, make informed decisions. Duty of loyalty means no self-dealing, no conflicts of interest. Duty of good faith means acting honestly, not using their position for personal gain. Violate any of these, and it's not just a civil matter, it can become criminal. Here's what you need to watch for. Red flag number 1, limited vendor lists. If your HOA only uses specific companies and won't even consider others, something's wrong. Competition drives prices down. Eliminating competition drives them up. Red flag number 2, no competitive bidding. Every contract should have multiple bids. If your board says they don't need bids because they have preferred vendors, that's a problem. Red flag number 3, rushed special assessments. Emergency repairs happen, but if everything's an emergency, nothing is. It's manufactured urgency to prevent scrutiny. Red flag number 4, missing or vague financial reports. You have a legal right to see where every penny goes. If they're hiding the details, they're hiding something else. So, what do you do if you spot these red flags? Document everything. Every fine, every meeting, every interaction. Your phone is your best friend. Record meetings if your state allows it. Most states are one-party consent, meaning if you're part of the conversation, you can record it. Next, request documents. You have a legal right to see contracts, bids, financial statements, meeting minutes. They might charge you a reasonable copying fee, but they can't refuse. If they do, that's another red flag and potentially illegal. Search your state's business registry. It's free, it's public, and it's online. Look up every vendor your HOA uses. Check who owns them. Check if there are connections to board members. It took me one night and $0 to uncover Karen's scheme. The information is there if you look. If you find evidence of self-dealing, you have options. The nuclear option is what I did, present it publicly, and call for an audit. But you can also file a complaint with your state's attorney general, report it to the district attorney, or file a civil lawsuit. The threat alone is often enough. Most corrupt board members fold the second they realize you know about fiduciary duty laws. Here's a template for the magic words that make HOA boards sweat. I'm concerned about potential breach of fiduciary duty under state statute, whatever your state's number is. I'm requesting a full financial audit and disclosure of all vendor relationships. If this matter isn't addressed within 30 days, I'll be forwarding my concerns to the Attorney General's office and seeking legal counsel for a derivative lawsuit. Send that certified mail. Return receipt requested. Watch how fast things change. But here's what's really important to understand. This isn't just about money, it's about power. People like Karen don't just want your cash, they want control. They want to feel important. They want to play dictator in their little kingdom. The fines aren't really about grass height. They're about reminding you who's in charge. The special assessments aren't really about improvements. They're about keeping you too broke to fight back. That's why fighting back matters. Not just for your wallet, but for your dignity. For your neighbors who are too scared or too tired to fight. For the principle that, in America, even in a homeowners association, nobody gets to be a tyrant. I still live at 1847 Maple Street. My grass is sometimes 2.7 inches tall. My mailbox is whatever shade of white the Home Depot had on sale. And nobody says a damn thing about it. Jim and I have beers on my imperfect driveway with its unsealed cracks. We laugh about the old days, about Karen and her ruler, about how scared we all were of a woman with a clipboard. The new HOA president is a retired teacher named Maria. She sends out a newsletter every month with actual, useful information, not violations, just updates about the neighborhood. The last special assessment was voted down because the board couldn't justify the expense. Imagine that, an HOA that actually serves its homeowners. But the best part? The absolute best part? About 6 months after Karen's conviction, I was at the grocery store and saw her. She was working as a cashier. Our eyes met for just a second. She looked away first. As I was leaving, I couldn't resist. I walked past her register and said, just loud enough for her to hear, "Careful with that receipt." Wouldn't want to violate any rules. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. Look, I'm not saying every HOA is corrupt. I'm not saying every board member is a criminal. Most are probably decent people trying to keep their neighborhoods nice. But power without oversight breeds corruption. And HOAs have tremendous power with almost no oversight. They operate in this weird gray area where they're not quite government, so constitutional protections don't apply, but they have government-like power to take your property. That's why you need to know your rights. That's why you need to pay attention. That's why you can't just keep your head down and pay the fines. Because every time you do, you're not just enabling the Karens of the world, you're funding them. The documents I used, the templates for document requests, the state statutes for every state, the step-by-step guide for conducting your own investigation, I've put all of that in the description below. It's free, because information is power, and power should never be one-sided. If you're dealing with a Karen right now, remember this. She's not invincible. She's just hoping you don't know about fiduciary duty. She's counting on you being too tired, too scared, or too poor to fight back. Prove her wrong. The law isn't just for rich people with lawyers. It's for anyone brave enough to read it, understand it, and use it. And if you're thinking, this could never happen in my neighborhood, think again. Warren Buffett once said, "Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked." Your HOA's tide hasn't gone out yet. But when it does, and it will, if you pull the right thread, you might be surprised at what you find. She tried to steal my house over a 1/4 inch of grass. Instead, she lost hers to pay back what she stole. She wanted to fine me into bankruptcy. Instead, she's the one with a criminal record. She thought she was untouchable. Turns out, she was just uninformed about fiduciary duty laws. And now, neither are you. If this helped you, hit that like button. Not for me, but as a signal to others that this information matters. If you know someone fighting their HOA, share this with them. Don't let them fight alone. And if you want more stories about regular people using the law to fight back and win, subscribe and hit the bell. Because Karen wasn't the last bully I took down. She was just the beginning. Remember, the law isn't just for lawyers, it's for anyone brave enough to read it. And sometimes, all it takes to bring down a tyrant is one person with a manila folder and the courage to stand up in a room full of people who've forgotten they have power. Be that person. Your neighbors are counting on you, even if they don't know it yet.